Hello, my name is Grant Gosselin. I serve as Director of Undergraduate Admission here at Boston College. And on behalf of the entire admission staff, I extend a warm welcome to all of you, and I'm grateful for you spending some time with us to learn a little bit more about Boston College. For those of you that may have visited other colleges and universities, you might find that our information session is a little bit different than what you might find on other campuses. Rather than show you a PowerPoint presentation or having me stand before you for the next 45 minutes, I plan to spend just about 10 minutes with you talking about some of the things that help to make Boston College distinctive from some of the other colleges and universities that you might be considering. Following that, I'm going to bring forward a panel of experts. For more than 20 years, we've believed that our students are the best spokespeople here at Boston College, and they live the experience every single day. So we'll invite them forward to introduce themselves to all of you and to help you think about some questions perhaps that you might want answered. They are happy to answer questions about any aspect of the student experience at Boston College. Life in the classroom, co-curricular opportunities, opportunities to study abroad, internships, whatever it is that you're thinking about as you explore the colleges and universities on your list, they'll be prepared to talk about how that manifests itself here at Boston College. And then at the very end of our time together, I'll come back to the floor and I'll talk very specifically about admission and financial aid. We know that many of those questions are on your minds and we want to make sure that they have time to be addressed, but we plan to spend those at the end of the hour as our students really want to spend time talking about their experience at Boston College. So without further ado, let me focus on three things that I believe really do help to make Boston College distinctive from some of the other colleges and universities that you might be considering. The first is that Boston College is one of just 27 Jesuit institutions in the United States. The Jesuits, if you're not familiar with them already, quite simply are an order of Catholic priests that were founded about 450 years ago by a man named Ignatius of Loyola. Now, Ignatius, we know him today as the great Saint Ignatius. The first portion of his life he spent in the military, and in the Battle of Pamplona was injured relatively severely when a cannonball struck him in the leg. And he spent 9 months in recovery following that injury. And at the time, those hospitals were run by the churches. And he had two books by his bedside. One was about the life of Jesus Christ, and one was about the lives of the saints. And he couldn't put those books down. He read them over and over again, and he began to go into a period of deep reflection about how he was living his life and what God wanted of him as he moved forward. And so he set out to head off to the University of Paris. He met up with a number of other young men at the time that were interested in pursuing the same questions. And he committed himself to founding the Society of Jesus, which ultimately went out to spread education as a use for good and social good in the world, a tool to address issues of social justice. And now 450 years later, you find 27 Jesuit colleges and universities in the United States, about 60 high schools, and many other institutions of education all over the world. And the core values are still very much alive today. This notion of reflection is part of the student experience at Boston College, and it manifests itself in a variety of ways. We estimate that about 70% of our students are Catholic. Those students have incredible opportunities to explore their faith, whether it's at one of 60 masses offered per week, opportunities for spiritual retreat programs, ways to interact in their local communities, in their residence halls or otherwise. But for students that are not Catholic, they will find a home here at Boston College as well. The same questions are asked of them as all of our students. And that is, what do you believe? Why do you believe it? And are you willing to engage in dialogue with others about those questions? And I think students that are willing to come and explore those aspects of their life will find Boston College to be a place that will nurture them in a variety of ways. One of the things you'll hear about with Jesuit education is this Latin phrase known as cura personalis, or care for the individual, care for the whole person. It's this notion that while an education at Boston College ought to be about your academic and your educational growth, it's also a period where you are developing spiritually and socially, culturally, interpersonally. All these things are at play in a dynamic residential experience like is available at Boston College. And so we want to make sure there are opportunities for growth in those areas. I mentioned retreat programs before. There are religious retreats. There are non-retreat programs. There are classes that students can take that combine their academic work with service work in the community of Boston, and building in reflection periods for students to come back from their placements, whether they're working in a homeless shelter, or whether they're working in a soup kitchen or in a prison system from an educational environment, coming back onto a forum at Boston College where they can process some of the injustices that they're seeing and work through them together. You'll find an enormous service culture at Boston College. It's one of the things that defines the student experience. We don't require any student to volunteer at Boston College, but about 85% of our students choose to do so at some point during their 4 years, and about 50% of our students are actively involved in service at any point in time. We've estimated over 300,000 hours of community service in and around the city of Boston were offered by Boston College students just last year alone. It's a place where students are really grateful for their educational opportunities and looking to share that with others that may not have the same opportunities that they do. So for many reasons, Boston College's Jesuit Catholic identity does differentiate the student experience here, and perhaps our students would be interested in sharing a little bit about that with you this afternoon as well. The second thing I'll talk about is Boston College's identity as a medium-sized R1 research university. There are a lot of colleges and universities in the United States, over 3,000 in total. Many of them are small, perhaps liberal arts colleges or specialty colleges, where they are known for incredible personal attention, one-on-one mentoring, really a very personalized educational experience. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you find a lot of large research universities, public flagship institutions that are known for the depth and breadth in the programs that they offer, but perhaps provide students with a little bit more anonymity as they move through the experience. And then you have a very small number of schools like Boston College that really are nestled right in between. Our undergraduate population includes about 9,000 students from all 50 states and over 70 countries around the world. We bring students here in a very intentional way to allow students to interact with each other and share their educational environment together as they move forward. And they do so in one of 4 undergraduate divisions at Boston College. There's the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, our largest division. About 65% of our students are enrolled there. It includes everything from natural sciences to social sciences, humanities, the arts, languages, all under that umbrella. About 25% of our students are enrolled in the Carroll School of Management, a top 10 undergraduate business program that provides students a wide variety of opportunities to explore careers in commerce. And then the last 10% of our students are roughly equally split between the Connell School of Nursing and the Lynch School of Education and Human Development, providing students opportunities to head off into the nursing field or in education, either as educators or in our fastest growing program in applied psychology, allowing students to think about how psychology manifests itself in everyday life, in problems that are encountering every day. Regardless of which of those 4 schools students are enrolled in, our students will take part of the university core curriculum. It is a broad-based educational experience that really is centuries old in terms of its liberal arts tradition. 15 courses are included in the core curriculum. Students will have their choice between a variety of courses in natural science, 2 courses in social science, 2 in theology, 2 in philosophy, 2 in history, and 2 in English. They'll take 1 course in mathematics, 1 in cultural diversity, and 1 in the arts. And students have all 4 years to take these, though many of them choose to do so in the first year. Now, core curriculums are designed in the liberal arts tradition to expose students to a wide variety of disciplines. For students that don't yet have an intended major determined, it allows them time for exploration. But even those students that are well-focused coming into Boston College, it challenges them to break off that track that they're on and really explore other disciplines that will bring life and color to their curriculum and to their careers later on. One of the challenges that we find with core curriculums, not at Boston College, but as a national phenomenon, is that students, while the curriculum is designed for this exploration, many students approach it as a checklist. They're looking to fill the boxes and determine what they need to do in order to come to focus on what they came here to do. And so Boston College faculty really took on that challenge about 5 or 6 years ago and reimagined our core. And it created what is known as the Core Renewal Program here at Boston College. Freshman courses where students will pair courses from different parts of the core curriculum together around common themes. We have 1 track called Complex Problems and 1 called Enduring Questions. I'll give you just a couple of examples. In the Complex Problems course, there was a course taught last year that combined an economics course with a law course, and the title was The Economics of Healthcare. a healthcare course where neither focus was on the natural sciences, but really thinking about the challenges legally and economically in our society today, contemporary issues that we're trying to solve as a nation. Looking at things like the opioid crisis, that is so prevalent in so many parts of the country, using the city of Boston as a resource where students went into hospitals and talked with recovering addicts about their challenges and their successes in recovery, working with legislators in the State House and understanding legislation that is in the works trying to address this issue. Thinking about the legalization of marijuana was another topic that they looked at. Now over half of the 50 states in the US have legalized marijuana. What are the implications to our economy? What are the legal implications that perhaps we ought to be thinking about? All of these things kind of are wrapped up in this one freshman course that students could take. On the Enduring Questions course, there's a course very popular among our students called The Pursuit of Happiness that combines philosophy with the arts. Philosophy, you can probably figure out what that was all about. You know, what is happiness? What do human beings need to live a content life? But the arts were brought in looking at happiness portrayed in literature and film. And as we go and sit in front of the big screen, oftentimes fame and fortune and wealth, those are the things that are projected on the big screen in terms of what brings you happiness, but it doesn't always reconcile with perhaps what students really need to live a fulfilling life. So these are two courses, just examples of many, that students could explore as a way to bring the core curriculum to life. Now, that's important because it sets up perhaps the single largest academic initiative in the history of Boston College. We are in the process of launching the Schiller Institute for Integrated Science and Society, an interdisciplinary center on campus, a $160 million facility that's being built and will be opening in the fall of 2021, that will be a centralized place for our students to think about addressing the world's problems around health, energy, and the environment, bringing together the strengths that Boston College already has in the natural sciences, the social sciences and humanities, the Shea Center for Entrepreneurship, and brand new programs in global public health, and beginning in the fall of 2021, a new major in engineering. So much excitement here on Boston College's campus as we think about preparing students in a very traditional way through the liberal arts, but in a very contemporary way as they think about interdisciplinary solutions to some of the world's biggest problems. The last thing that I'll just quickly mention for you before I introduce our students is our incredible location right on the edge of the city of Boston. Arguably the greatest college town in the world, over 150,000 college students living in and around the city of Boston. And Boston provides a myriad of opportunities for students as they think about postgraduate employment, internships, social life in the city of Boston, history. If you're a history buff, you can walk the Freedom Trail and literally get a lesson in early American history. All these things are right on the footstep of Boston College's campus. I'll let our students talk a little bit more about the social aspects and how they might use the city of Boston. But without further ado, I'd like to invite them forward. They'll introduce themselves to all of you and then field the questions that you've brought with you today. And as I mentioned, I'll come back at the end of our time and I'll talk very specifically about admission and financial aid. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Boston College. My name is Henry Hawley, and I am a senior here at BC studying philosophy and art history in our Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. I'm originally from Los Angeles.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tiffany Brooks. I'm from Bristol, Rhode Island. I'm currently a junior in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, and I am majoring in psychology, the Bachelor of Science version, and I am currently a marketing and theater minor.
Hi, I'm Kara Johansson. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I am majoring in sociology and minoring in economics in our Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, and also minoring in applied psychology in the Lynch School of Education and Human Development.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jordan Papula. I am a current senior studying sociology and economics in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, and I am from Milford, Massachusetts.
Without further ado, any questions from the audience?
Can you please tell me why you chose Boston College?
Yeah, I'll go first. I think this is a question that's always, for me, been tough to kind of nail down one specific answer to because it was such a feel thing for me. I was sitting in, kind of your seats that you guys are in, visiting campus, deciding whether or not BC was going to be the right place for me. And what really kind of sealed the deal for me was just everybody on campus, when I was talking to them, it felt like they wanted to know who I was as a person. And they were actually interested in, if they asked me what I was studying, they were interested in why I wanted to study economics. They were interested in what I was involved in outside of the classroom in high school. And it was just a very welcoming environment, an environment that I could tell was going to be really supportive and encouraging, and a place where I feel like we all want to see each other succeed just as much as we want to succeed ourselves. So it's definitely a place where everybody is driven to do the best that they can, but we're also worried about how our friends are doing and how can we support them and how can we kind of grow as a community as well. So I think that's kind of the sense that I was picking up on.
I think I chose BC for a few different reasons. One of them being location. That was a really big part as to why I chose Boston College, because I wanted to be close enough to home where I could get home if I ever needed it, but I didn't want to be too close where I felt like I was going to be suffocated by my family, or that my mom kind of just show up on campus and surprise me without any warning. So an hour and 15 minutes is a nice happy medium for the both of us. I wanted a space that I could grow spiritually, personally, academically, and I think BC had all of that. So on paper, it looked great, but I think what really made BC unique, similarly to what Jordan has said, were the people. And I got to experience that over AHANA Students Weekend, which AHANA, AHANA+, is our diversity program here on campus. And that acronym stands for African, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, and plus, so it encompasses all students of color. And so as an accepted student, I got to come spend a few days here with a current student here who was also a student of color. And something that I realized over that weekend is that the people here were happy and they were passionate about what they were doing. And so I know that I thrive best in a place where those around me are passionate, because through that, it inspires and uplifts me to do what I love to do and to make sure I'm doing it wholeheartedly. And in addition to that, the people here were taking advantage of any opportunity that they had to make sure that they knew that they felt prepared enough that they could go out and make a difference in the world after graduation and to truly be happy after graduation. And so that was something that really made BC stand out to me.
Can some of you talk about your academic journey here at BC and how you have interacted with the core curriculum?
Yeah, I can definitely speak to choosing a major here at Boston College, because I certainly had an adventure with that experience. Coming in as a freshman, if there was one thing that I knew about myself, it was that I was going to major in political science, because I was super interested in politics and I really wanted to explore that interest further. And after taking a couple of classes, I decided to then double major in economics, and then I ended up taking a sociology class as part of a core renewal program, and the professor was amazing and created such thoughtful discussions and thoughtful projects that I realized that was an area of study that I really wanted to continue with. And I ended up switching my major to sociology, dropping that economic major to a minor, and then I recently picked up an applied psychology minor in the Lynch School of Education and Human Development, which has also been very additive to my academic experience. And I really appreciate that BC has the flexibility to allow me to have this thoughtful academic experience and really decide what is best for me, and also that I had the opportunity to take classes in another school and figure out that passion as well.
Could you talk a little bit about that Jesuit mission and how you feel that impacts your daily life as students?
The Jesuit identity and heritage of Boston College was certainly something that I was looking for when I came to BC. I went to one of the 60 Jesuit high schools that Grant talked about in his intro, Loyola High School in Los Angeles, and I really loved my experience at Loyola. The Jesuits that I knew and the professors that were there were really important in my student formation. They cared heavily about my academics. They were helping me to discover my faith, to understand how important that was to me. They were helping me through, at that point, the most formative years of my life, and I wanted to continue with that. So I applied to primarily Jesuit institutions, and what stood out for BC is that it is the largest institution of Jesuit higher learning in the United States. There are over 150 Jesuits here, and with a large student body as well, I got a piece of other people that were wanting to experience that as well. Very strong academics, a lot of service, very big opportunities in Boston, and good opportunities to hear from other people as well, their stories, how the Jesuits interacted with them, their focus in studies or in the liberal arts. That was something that really drove me to BC, and I'm so thankful that I'm now in year 8 of Jesuit education.
Yeah, on the other end of that spectrum, I am not Catholic. I grew up in a not very religious household. And coming to BC, I think that my parents were maybe a little bit surprised that I ended up at a Catholic Jesuit institution, but I have really found myself aligning with those Jesuit values, perhaps in a different way than Henry has, because I have really not gone to Mass every night, but I do reflect on the different elements that the Jesuit education offers, such as having, a reflection session for a For Boston meeting. For Boston is our largest student organization on campus, and it's a service organization where you dedicate 4 hours per week. So I really appreciate that there's that service element that's really emphasized at Boston College, but then there's also the reflection element, which is another Jesuit value, where we would reunite with our group and talk about our service and really reflect on that. I've found that the Jesuit values are very applicable to all different types of people, so I think that BC definitely provides a great spiritual plane to figure that out. But if you're not interested in that, there are a lot of different ways to interact with the Jesuit values that can be very meaningful for your college experience.
Can you talk a little bit about advising, please? Maybe about how you found your advisor or how they help you to select your courses?
Sure. Advisors are a big part of your success here at BC. You start out with an orientation advisor. They help walk you through the process of orientation, picking classes, making sure you start checking the boxes of what you need to do to graduate just in your first semester. They also help you get acclimated with the campus and know how the routine is going to start. When you start at BC, you have an academic advisor. When you declare a major, you'll have a major advisor. If you have any of the pre-professional tracks, you get an advisor there. Some other opportunities on campus, other resources like the Career Center or First Year Experience might have advisors as well, whether formally or in name, in just another fashion. My advisor has been very helpful for me. He was my academic advisor my freshman year, and he was also one of my freshman professors. He has done all those things, recommended classes for me, helped me make sure I'm taking all of my proper classes so that I graduate on time. He has actually written a resume for me, written a recommendation for me and looked over my resume when I was applying for internships. But my most important moment with Professor Brayman came my sophomore year with an untimely death of a teacher from high school. I didn't internalize it well, and I struggled with grades, and he was there to help me when I was most vulnerable. I remember one night I kind of just pulled the plug because I just wasn't doing well, and he I reached out to him, and he emailed back within 5 minutes and said, "Come to my office right now." I was at the library, and it was probably 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and I went straight there and didn't leave his office until 1 in the morning. But he sat with me through everything. He understood in that moment he wasn't just my academic advisor, he was a life advisor. He was there to help me through everything, and he understood that I was a person, not just a student, and I have more needs throughout the 4 years. And he has been very helpful throughout my 4 years and got me to the place that I am.
What's also great about academic advising is that freshman year, some of your academic advisors may be the teachers you have. So for example, in some of the core renewal classes, those teachers will be your academic advisors. There is one class specifically for freshmen called Courage to Know, and it really just talks about your transition to college. And so that professor would act as your advisor as well. Or you could be assigned a random advisor. I came in pre-med, so I did have the pre-medical advisor, but my main academic advisor my first semester was a dance professor who I had as one of my freshman year classes. So it's a great opportunity to get to interact with professors that you may not necessarily get the chance to interact with on a daily basis. And it doesn't have to be a formally assigned advisor or anything like that. For example, I always love to tell the story of Professor Wolfman, who was an incredible professor that BC was lucky to have. And we had a class of about 250 students, but by the end of the first week, he had already memorized everybody's first and last names. And not only that, but at the end of the semester, he would invite some students over to their house, and he would cook a lovely dinner for the students, and then they'd bus us right back. And that's something that's super common among all professors here at BC, is that they truly care about you, that, yeah, you're succeeding inside the classroom and academically, but also outside of the classroom, and they will always be there as a resource to help you do that. I only had Professor Wolfman for one semester, but I still got to meet with him outside of class. I talked to him almost every day, and he gave me a lot of great advice moving forward in college, so I'm forever grateful that I got to learn from him.
With graduating from high school and entering college, I'm a little bit worried about making friends and finding community in that transition. I'm also unsure about how housing works here at BC. Can you talk a little bit more about those questions?
Sure, I can start with kind of the housing process and kind of some of the basics about housing at Boston College. All students at Boston College will receive either 3 years or 4 years of on-campus housing guaranteed. So pretty much 99.9% of freshmen will live on campus. Same goes for sophomores. And then junior year is actually the year that 50% of our junior class will move off campus. And that's going to be in local apartments and houses in the nearby area, usually no more than a 15 or 20-minute walk to campus. So very, very accessible and definitely still plugged in to the campus community. And then senior year, a somewhat astounding stat is that 95% of seniors return to campus for on-campus housing during their senior year. So that's definitely something that people look forward to.
In freshman year housing, you have the opportunity to, you can do a single, but usually that's only for medical accommodations. You can do a traditional double where there's 2 people in your room. You can do a lofted triple, which is where there are 2 beds that are bunked, then there's 1 bed on the ground. And then you could do a natural triple, which is where all 3 beds are on the ground. Or you could do a quad, which is where there are 4 people in 1 room. And in regards to roommates, you could go in random or selected. I've heard great stories either way. I've heard not so great stories either way. So it really just depends as to what you want to do. I went, selected my first year, and I still am really good friends with my roommate today. So it really does just depend, but you have the option to do random or selected all 4 years.
And then just to touch on the transition piece of the question, I think that coming into BC, I knew that I always wanted to go to college far away. But I think sitting on that plane, I had a little bit of a nervous moment where I couldn't believe that I was moving 1,500 miles across the country. And coming to BC, I definitely had butterflies in my stomach. But I think that there are so many great aspects of BC that make it a welcoming community and really help you ease that tradition. When you're a freshman, you do live in those traditional style dorms that Tiff was talking about. And you have a resident assistant that is there for you to talk if you ever need someone to talk to. They're an upperclassman, so they have some experience. If you want to talk about classes, they can help you with that or anything else that you need help navigating. I also think that BC has some really great programs. The core renewal programs that Grant was talking about, there are some that are offered to only freshmen, and they're typically in a class size about 19 people. I took one of those, I actually took 2 of those my freshman year, and that was a really great experience because being in that small classroom right away is definitely something that helps you build relationships with people, which was something that I was very appreciative of, and the people that were in that class have become some of my best friends that I talk to every single day and some that I live with as my roommates now. Another great thing that BC offers is 48 hours, which is a retreat for freshmen to kind of check in with how you're doing academically, socially, spiritually, and kind of reflect on your freshman year so far. And I think that was another really great experience that I had the opportunity to go on that and kind of take a break from campus, think about myself, and really, make adjustments going from there. So I really appreciate everything that BC does to help you in that transition and make sure that you're doing not just okay, but doing really well.
I'll ask our last question. This is a stressful time for us. So do you have any words of wisdom that you could give us as students as we prepare to, go through this college search and selection process?
Sure. One of my big things that I look back when I was going through the college application process was I was not as organized as I probably could have been. And being organized for me is something that I had to learn through college. And as I'm looking back and thinking about the different colleges that I was looking at, I was also sometimes looking and wasn't perfectly informed to make the decision. As I have gotten to know BC and I've heard from my other friends at different universities and heard about their schools, I realized being informed and just scrolling through the website, finding all the different programs, researching the majors, the classes, the professors that are there, it gives you a more informed opportunity to make that better decision. Also, the applications start in August for most schools, so getting some work done early on your personal statement or asking your professors for their recommendations early rather than last minute helps you check the boxes that you need to do to get done before the deadline. That would have helped me a lot better, and I'm sure it will help you in your college process.
I think my advice would have to be is to not let anybody tell you that you're not good enough to apply to a school. My SAT scores definitely were not very high above the average that BC was looking for. But I had people tell me multiple times that should I even apply to BC, I probably wouldn't even get in there. And look where I am now. You will end up where you are meant to be, and any school is lucky to have you. So don't just base it off of the name either. Go to a school that you think that you would truly grow in. College is a time to grow. So you should go to the place where you feel like you would best fit in. And don't let a name determine that. Don't let other people determine that. The only person who could really tell you that is yourself. So listen to yourself and apply where you think you will thrive.
I think reflecting on my college process, one thing that always stands out is going on these college trips where you're spending time with your family. And I know there were a lot of college trips where me and my family didn't always get along the best. It is definitely a stressful time, but I think something that I would definitely encourage people to remember is that, these are some of the last times that you get to spend with your family. Once you graduate from high school and you're going to college, you're just not going to see them, get to eat breakfast with them every morning, get to come home from school to them. So I definitely think that appreciating the time that you have with your family, especially if you're going somewhere far away, is definitely something that I would recommend during your college process.
My advice is, as you're going through the kind of college search process, to really think about a school that you're going to be able to live well at. There are probably going to be a lot of schools where you can kind of fit in academically and take great classes from great professors with great students. And that's great. Academics are the main reason that you should go to a school, but you also have to think about who you are as a person, how you like to live, whether that's being close to your family or you're looking to go a little bit further away and develop some independence. If you want to be close to a city like I wanted to be, or if you want to be somewhere where, the college campus really is the big thing that's going on. Those are things that are important to think about. So doing some of the kind of reflection and introspection in kind of the Jesuit tradition that we talked about earlier, doing some of that work so that you can really think about what type of school and kind of which school will be a best home for you is important.
I want to come back and take the floor just for a few moments, but I want to thank all of you for sharing those words of wisdom and talking a little bit about your student experience. I did promise to come back and talk very specifically about applying to Boston College and about the financial aid availability here at Boston College as well. So I want to cover those briefly, and obviously you can find a lot more information on our website. But there are a couple of things that I think are important to note. One is that when students are applying to Boston College, we realize how complex this process is. We do our part to try to keep it as simple as possible. We accept just one application, that's the common application, and that is available generally beginning on August 1st. On that application, we will ask two additional questions. One I've covered already. I've mentioned that we have 4 undergraduate divisions, the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, the Carroll School of Management, the Lynch School of Education and Human Development, and the Connell School of Nursing. We're going to ask you to identify which of those 4 schools you'll be applying to, and your application will be reviewed in an applicant pool specifically to that school. The second is that we ask you to write a second personal statement, very specific to Boston College. Those supplemental questions you can find on our website, and they are questions that will require a good deal of thought. We are of the mind that this process of applying to college should include a good level of discernment, very much in line with our Jesuit tradition and philosophy. And so we want you to reflect on the things that you've learned today, that you've learned through your exploration of Boston College, about why it is that you're including Boston College on your list of potential institutions. So spend some time looking at those as you complete the application. When you apply to Boston College, there are 2 ways that you can apply, either through early decision or through regular decision. Early decision carries one of 2 deadlines, November 1st for early decision 1 and January 1st for early decision 2. Early decision is a process for students that have done their homework. They've done their research, they've been on websites, they've visited campuses to the extent possible, and they've really established among their list of schools one that stands out above the rest, a school that they are very interested in going to and are willing to commit to enrolling if admitted. And so when students apply to Boston College through early decision, they sign an agreement along with their parent or guardian and a school counselor that tells us Boston College is where I want to be. It allows us to sort through a very large applicant pool and identify those students that have already established Boston College as a good match. This process really is about making a match between a student and an institution, and so having half the work done already allows us to really look at those applications in a different light. When students apply early decision, we try to identify our decision very quickly. We'll notify students by the middle of December at the very latest for early decision 1, and by the middle of February for early decision 2. And if that student is admitted, their college process is over. They commit to that institution and withdraw other applications. For students that are interested in spending a little bit more time in their deliberation process, regular decision can be a good option. We allow students to apply up until January 1st for a regular decision. We notify students by mid to late March of our decision, and they have until May 1st to make up their minds where they want to apply. Now, people will ask us, are there advantages to applying early decision? Are there benefits? And the answer is yes, there is a benefit. Not so much in that the academic quality is any different. Generally, the students we admit through early decision and regular decision are very similar in terms of their qualifications. The difference comes in terms of the applicant pool, the size of the pool when students are applying. This past year, during our early decision rounds combined, just under 3,000 students applied. We admitted roughly 37% of those students, a pretty healthy admit rate. Again, their academic qualifications actually exceeded those of last year's freshman class, so it was a very strong pool. Regular decision is a much larger application pool. Roughly 26,000 students applied during regular decision. We filled about 40% of the class through that first pool of 3,000 applications, and about 60% of the class through regular decision at about 26,000 applications. So you see a pretty significant difference in terms of admit rate. So the benefit to a student, clearly, other than understanding early where they're going off to college, could be in terms of the admission rate itself. Now, one of the challenges with early decision, one of the criticisms, quite honestly, of early decision is that it tends to advantage families that don't have to worry about cost when they're making their college decision. If a family can make a commitment up front, generally it means that they have established that Boston College is a place that is affordable for them and their families. We feel very confident having early decision at Boston College because we are one of just 20 private universities in the United States that are both need blind in the admission process, meaning we don't know anything about a family's financial background when we make our admission decision, and we guarantee to meet the full need of every student that we admit. This is an extraordinary commitment. It's why only 20 institutions in the country are able to do so. We award roughly $150 million in need-based financial aid each year at Boston College. Now, to be eligible for that financial aid, students need to complete the FAFSA form and the CSS profile form. Again, information on doing so can be found on our website. We'll determine what if we feel a family can afford to contribute toward the cost of their education, and we will fully meet the difference between their ability to pay and the total cost, if there is one. We also understand that debt is a concern in the United States. There's a growing number of debt that we'll hear about oftentimes in the media and in our own research. The reality is that at private nonprofit institutions, the average indebtedness of a four-year bachelor graduate is about $37,000. That's a pretty significant amount of debt. At Boston College, we're very proud of our packages. All of our packages do include some form of loan, but our average debt for four-year graduates is about $19,000. So again, we believe Boston College is an incredibly affordable option. Now, many families will ask, in addition to need-based aid, are there merit scholarship opportunities? And at Boston College, in fact, there's only one, and that is our Gabelli Presidential Scholarship Program that comes with a full four-year tuition scholarship for all 4 years. It includes fully funded summer experiences and international travel opportunities, and it's an incredible program. The only thing that students need to do to be eligible for it is to submit their applications to Boston College by November 1st. You don't have to be an early decision candidate. If you're applying regular decision, as long as you submit that application by November 1st, our scholarship committee will have time to review it, and then we invite about 50 candidates, 50 finalists to campus in February to interview for one of 15 scholarships. Again, a highly selective program for our very top students, but one that we want to make sure that every family is aware of. So again, that's a little bit about admission and financial aid. We hope that you'll spend some time on our website learning more about the intricacies of both of those things. Feel free to call our office if you have questions after the fact that we can answer for you. And consider potentially coming back to campus in the future. We are open throughout the summer and the fall. In our fall array of opportunities, we have an Eagle for a Day program where students can be matched one-on-one with a current student to spend about a 3-hour visit attending a class, seeing a residence hall, and even enjoying lunch in one of our dining halls. So many opportunities in the future to come and visit campus, and we hope that you'll choose to take advantage of those opportunities. And we look forward to working with you during your college search. Thank you again for joining us.